Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Silver the Hedgehog here, and I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Sonic X Shadow Generations, while we're still playing through the remastered version of Sonic Generations for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and of course the Nintendo Switch, including the upcoming Nintendo Switch successor due to the forms of the backwards compatibility for I keep on hearing about. So, last time, we have essentially did manage to accomplish every single challenge act for the likes of the forms of Crisis City within Act 1 as well as Act 2, and every once in a while we also did manage to able to finish up the rest of the challenge acts from Rooftop Run Act 1. And despite the fact that we did those challenges okay enough, but there are a couple of times we had several mistakes at one hand. Well, that's just mainly because, as far as I'm aware though, the blue mission can seriously go in a dumpster fire, because as far as I'm aware, that is pretty slow for that mission to me. And in addition to that, that's as far as I can try and think about it. So today, for this video, is that we're going to be continuing things on with the challenge acts, and suffice to say, we might able to actually say this right from the start though, is that we might able to actually finish up the rest of the forms of those challenge acts, because straight to the point, we've only got 15 of those challenge acts left, and so we've basically done every single challenge act, so it doesn't matter with our performance and stuff like that. So, despite the fact that we actually come across into our first C rank in terms of the forms of the challenge acts and the entire game itself, for the sake of the forms of the double gang race in Act 1 in Rooftop Run, well, that's just mainly because, as you probably already expect, that we keep on failing with all these leaps of faith situations. So, yeah, apart from those side things though, that's as far as I can think about it. So yeah, let's get to it with the challenge acts with the forms of Rooftop Run Act 2 challenges. And as you can tell, the mission applies for this particular mission right here is that we need to collect a certain amount of rings by keep on hitting those barrels. So, relatively speaking, that was a pretty simple and self-explanatory mission, as far as you can definitely tell from this point. So, yeah, everything else checks out there. And I get the feeling about the fact that we do need to get that specific timing going, and I somehow bypassed that music note right there. So, but hopefully we will get around onto doing the forms of the proper main boss in Modern Era as well. So we can pretty much guarantee for the fact that if you couldn't tell already, this video has gone pretty long as it is, and you probably already know what's to come. So anyway, I suppose I should probably be able to actually hit back into that particular music note later, because suffice to say, it can be pretty tricky to get sometimes. So anyway, let's get to it with the next mission right here, and that's what appears to be Endless Boost, where if you couldn't tell already, if you do manage to able to boost instantly, or specifically if you're trying to boost all the way to the end of a level, you do realize that the boost gauge just never been depleted, and as a result, yeah, if you do die like here, obviously though you have to restart the entire mission. So this also means that every time you pick up a ring, your ring counter does not increase either. So relatively speaking though, it kind of reminds me like a similar vibes as in Daredevil challenges for the likes of not only in Super Mario Galaxy, but as well as Super Mario Galaxy 2 as well. So suffice to say though, it's almost like a no damage run, because there are quite a lot of hazards that we definitely need to avoid, ranging from those robots, in addition to lasers, spikes, and also say applies with bombs as well. And also say applies with these spiky barrels, thanks to the forms of one of those aircrafts that did somehow manage to able to try to kill us. So, but luckily though, it only took me about 2 tries, so either way though, because on the first attempt, I was not expecting for that particular little saw blade that is in my way. But apart from those side things though, it's not too shabby. So anyway, let's just say we'll go ahead and try this little music note again, and there we go. Now we somehow obtained that one. So it's kind of crazy to believe about the fact I don't know if it's possible you can able to actually activate 1 or 2 music notes at a time. Oh, okay then. I keep on thinking about something related to that other game, but that'll be a topic for later. So anyway, let's get into the next mission, and this mission right here is probably perhaps one of my favorite challenges, and that's what it appears to be. We're gonna be able to actually doing some snowboarding, or specifically, yeah, just snowboarding in general, onto Spagonia, and that'll be a perfect fit for the music choice I somehow choose. That's what appears to be High Flying Grove from the likes of Sonic Riders. So, makes it a little bit more obvious than ever, because it reminds me of like I was experiencing the successor to Sonic Riders, despite the fact that Sonic 3 Riders was a pretty bad game just because of all that stupid gimmicky motion controls that you have to use your entire body to do everything. But apart from those aside things though, thankfully nowadays we're now able to actually play the game without utilizing the Kinect controller, although despite the fact that it does require specific complications in order to able to actually play the game for reals, including with the emulation for the Xbox 360 as a matter of fact. So anyway, yeah, a few things I want to talk about is about the fact that, well, today's date, of course, is the 14th of January today, in some cases in 2025 today, and it looks like we are getting very close towards the advance of the halfway point in terms of January for 2025, before we move on to the second month in 2025, and that's, of course, February. So, yeah, everything else will become to expect at that point, and it's also worth noting for this point too, we've only got about 2 more days left until Donkey Kong Country Returns HD is expected to be releasing until 2 days from now. So, relatively speaking, I was about the fact I'm still very curious to know on what the review scores is going to be like exactly, but maybe we should probably save that particular topic probably at some point until on Friday for some time, if we manage to actually tackle through the post-game content just before we get into the final battle in the game. So yeah, this mission is pretty awesome, especially considering for the fact that we can obviously utilize the actual snowboard all the way down to certain parts of Spagonia. So yeah, I really do like that mission. So yeah, the very least about the fact that, again, some missions I do like, but there are some missions I'm not overly big fan of, I have to be honest here, but either way. So yeah, as you can tell, we somehow got the music track based off from Shadow the Hedgehog, I Am All of Me, the main theme of Shadow the Hedgehog 05. So anyway, so now let's go ahead and do the next doppelganger race, and this time we're about to choose a different musical track. That's what it appears to be. Well, if you couldn't tell from the background music, is obviously Race to Win from Sonic Rivals 2. So as a result, despite the fact that that song is pretty cheesy, I'm not gonna lie for saying this, especially concerning with all its lyrics and everything, but usually relatively speaking, I was about the fact that the reason why that I will have to admit to that right away, that you do realize about the fact that we no longer have our Let's Play of Sonic Rivals 2, well, that's mainly because, much like the evolves of how it does it on the first Sonic Rivals game, I think we might consider trying to do a redo Let's Play of both Sonic Rivals 1 and 2 for some time during the likes of, depending on the timing of the actual uploading schedules is going to be involved. So yeah, we're also able to give these Sonic Rivals games another chance, but hopefully we can able to do a much more better version of that particular Let's Play in mind, because I do know for the fact that Sonic, or I would classify as saying like Mickey or Piglet for that matter, did somehow mention about this, or generally Knuckles, I'm presuming so anyway, that they both told me for the fact that obviously though we had to do a redo Let's Play of both Sonic Rivals 1 as well as Sonic Rivals 2, because while looking back on those two Let's Plays within 2014 and 2016, respectively, they did find out about the fact that the actual quality is not the best, especially concerning for the fact you can't really see the in-game text properly. In addition to that though, the sound for the camera, we attempt to use it back in the day, which appears to be almost like a waterproof kind of camera. Well, usually, relatively speaking, we attempt to use it back in the day, at least what I've heard about something anyway, but it's just about the fact that the sound quality is a bit muffled, and as a result though, it does not sound great either. So, and not to mention though, is about the fact that there are a couple of times though, whenever we able to actually decide to do the editing software whenever we trying to able to actually show it to you guys. Not only cutscenes, but as well as voice acting for several cutscenes while trying to do with alternate scenes within multiple playthroughs of that game. Not only with Sonic Rivals 1, even though despite the fact that Sonic Rivals 1 does not have any cinematic voice actors, or to be more specifically, just voice acting in cutscenes, but in Sonic Rivals 2 does, but it's just about the fact that every time whenever we do manage to edit those out, specifically in Windows Movie Maker program, for the love of God, for I've noticed something that the sound keeps on, like, muting itself. Like, I have nothing to do with anything else for that particular programming issues, but regardless of such, though, it's about the fact that it feels a bit too annoying at one point. So, but either way, that's besides the point. So, anyway, so that pretty much does it for that particular doppelganger race. Not too shabby, way more better than the forms of how it does on my run on Act 1, just because thankfully we somehow achieved a nice glorious S rank in the process. Especially we don't have to necessarily try to worry about the actual painful, you know, leaps of faith situation. But apart from those side things though, everything else checks out there, right? Well, nothing even compared to the forms of, I will classify for sayers right about now, this is probably one of my least favorite mission objectives, or if not the least favorite mission, but I seriously do not like this mission. Why is that, you may ask? Well, obviously though, we're about to be competed against with Vector the Crocodile with Victory to Beat kind of mission. So basically though, you simply try to able to juggle around with like that particular singular music note, and as you can tell, in order to able to win this mission, you have to knock or try to homing attack onto that musical note a couple of times, and yeah, it's not that fun. Okay, quick edit right there, sorry about that folks, because yeah, believe me while I'm saying this mission is way too tedious and is also very annoying too. And relatively speaking, I was about the fact that sometimes though, luckily it's on that small area, but at the same time though, it's just about the fact that it's all about timing, and you also have to be fast on this, because the later you go for this particular mission itself, it starts off with pretty simple enough with the blue music note, but eventually, as you can tell, it actually changes color into the yellow music note, but eventually at some point it gets a lot more aggressive for the red music note. And most of the time, the actual specific directions of the musical note can be felt a bit far too finicky sometimes, especially concerning if you dare manage to boost into it, chances are though you will mess up. And not to mention, the drop dash, as I mentioned this countless amount of times already, will screw you up if you manage to able to activate the drop dash on purpose. So, but regardless of everything else though, after a couple of attempts later, then chances are though we can able to, well, succeed. So either way, there it goes. Thank heavens for that, because whenever I managed able to experience this mission actually, not only on the Xbox One version, but as well as the Switch version, I unfortunately never actually achieved the S rank, but that's just mainly because, my goodness, the timing is so strict when it comes to trying to homing attack into one of those music notes in between. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of that mission, but luckily we've already done with that, so I believe that pretty much does it for every single challenge act in Rooftop Run / Spagonia. So now we can move on to the final 10 challenge acts, and that is simply about the fact that we're going into Planet Wisp. And to start things off, what we're getting into is Act 1. So, yeah, basically this particular French challenge right here is about the fact that we need to catch Blaze, or should I say, we need to exactly touch Blaze, and then once you've done so, then the challenge will be completed. So, yeah, sounds easy, right? Well, here's the thing though, is about the fact that if you go near to where Blaze was, sometimes she quickly turns around, and not to mention though, is about the fact that you have to utilize with the pink spike wisp, not able to scale through walls, and not to mention though, ceiling as well. And as you can tell, it's pretty crazy to believe that the timer itself stops, and as a result, that's mainly because I did somehow accidentally obtain a couple of those timer items. Well, usually, I do believe it can be possible if you do manage to able to beat this mission with 0 seconds precise, but most of the time, like I said before, if you go right near to where Blaze was, she obviously immediately turns around and she goes into the opposite direction sometimes. So, yeah, as you can tell, I'm doing pretty unlucky right there when it comes to getting to this whole mission accomplishment in the quickest way imaginable. Well, sometimes that was about the fact that sometimes I was being hasty sometimes for any other circumstances, and when it comes to, like, you know what I mean. So, anyways though, yeah, there are a couple of things I would like to mention about this. Is about the fact that, as far as I do somehow realize, about the fact that, truth be told, about the fact that I did somehow manage to realize, I actually got myself my final, not only the final Nintendo DS game we somehow got, but also we actually got ourselves the final 3DS game into our collections. And those two games in questioning was, for the Nintendo DS, our final game we somehow got for the Nintendo DS when it comes to physical cartridge versions, or specifically the physical versions in particular, that will have to be Tetris DS. Although, I was originally able to expect to get the Japanese exclusive game, which appears to be, Intercutter Street DS, which is basically like a crossover with not only with Super Mario, but as well as Dragon Quest with that particular Monopoly kind of board gameplay. Well, unfortunately though, we're already too late for that regard, especially concerning for the fact that despite the fact that I don't usually read that much of Japanese text and stuff like that, so I thought to myself, yeah, I might also give Tetris DS another chance, because I do somehow remember that Sonic did tell me about this, that he did manage to used to have that game back in very long time ago, like sometime in Christmas 2006, but then out of nowhere though, ever since in the mid-2010s era, that for some odd reason is about, actually kind of think about it, it was during the lockdown actually, that for whatever reason is about the fact that I get the feeling that Shadow yet again accidentally used the actual Chaos Spear right at the forms of our complete in-box copy of Tetris DS, and so much so, unfortunately though, our game card is broken. So as a result, thankfully we somehow managed to got the a different copy, but thankfully though in a much more better condition than he falls of how it does it back in during the likes of whenever we last had that game, since during the lockdown. And not only that though, that we can able to appreciate about the fact that we can able to actually drastically build up with the Super Mario collection when it comes to gaming and stuff like that, because as you probably already know, that the 40th anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. Franchise is definitely going to be happening for the sake of this year, so we're really hoping about the fact that we're able to actually get a whole bunch of content for the Super Mario Bros. 40th anniversary this time around in 2025, because I already know for the fact that while looking back in the past Mario's anniversaries, within the 20th anniversary, I will classify for saying that we do have the Famicom version skin of the Game Boy Micro, and same applies with the forms of some other Mario games in 2005, like, let's just say, Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix, or Dancing Stage Mario Mix if you lived in the UK, and as well as now we also got Mario Party 7, well, at least in the North America and the Japanese release, because it wasn't until in 2006 where the UK version finally receives Mario Party 7. And there's also Super Mario Strikers, or Mario Smash Football if you lived in the European countries. So, because get it, because in America though, they attempt to call that particular sport a little bit more differently into soccer, whilst in the UK it always says football, because you know, foot is the main aspect when it comes to how that particular sport plays out, that only your foot can able to kick the ball, because if you pick it up with your hand, that counts as a handball. So as a result, yeah, you don't want to let that happen, do you? So anyway, so as you can see, we're going back into the forms of this gold plate challenge once again, ever since in Crisis City, except this time around though, it's a little bit trickier than the forms of how it does it on the first go around in Crisis City. But apart from those side things though, when you get the hang of it though, it's actually not too shabby for the most part. I mean, there are a couple of times though you do need to fall down at one point and hopefully try to able to touch that particular gold plate as quickly as you can, so just in case you don't able to get a 5-second penalty. So yeah, that's what I can really think about it. So anyways though, another thing I want to explain about this is that unfortunately though, one of those games in particular has been officially been delayed again. So I kind of think about it, this is going to be the second time that particular game has been delayed, but this time around though it's now going to be pushed back until roughly the exact same day as in Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, and that game in questioning was Assassin's Creed Shadows for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X/S, and as well as PC Steam version as well. So generally speaking, that game was originally trying to able to release at some point until next month, sometime in February, but now it's been delayed again, but this time it's now going to be releasing until the 20th of March, which, like I said before, that game is going to be releasing around the exact same day as in Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch. So, yeah, I've no idea what's going on with that game, personally speaking, because mind you, no matter what though, I definitely heard about the films of the Assassin's Creed games after all, but I've never actually experienced any of them. Well, apart from the fact I've known the actual character as well as the game series in general, but either way, I still have no idea what the heck is going on with that particular, well, release schedules these days. So, anyways, let's get into the next doppelganger race, and as you can tell, the S rank time is now 6 minutes as opposed to, well, shorter amount of time, and let's just hope about the fact that we can able to actually experience a much more better speedrun tactics or anything else like that. So either way, again, we shall wait and see, especially concerning for the fact that obviously though is about the fact that I just need to try to stay focused at one point. So anyway, the next thing I want to discuss upon actually is about the fact that I actually did manage to look upon the films of the Sonic Cinematic Universe when it comes to the films of the most screen time, when it comes to several of those characters in between. Well, mind you, I'm more able to actually say this right from the start though. It might actually have some spoiler elements, but not all of the spoilers, mind you, but I will have to point things out in terms of the actual screen time results. For those of you curious enough, of how many minutes does several characters has been shown on screen. Unless if you want to count, let's just say technically speaking though, is about the fact that if you do want to count, not only for the likes of Sonic Movie 1, but as well as Sonic 2 movie, alongside with Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie, including Knuckles the series on Paramount Plus, because there's a reason why I somehow say that, because according to the forms of the most screen time when it comes to in the Sonic Cinematic Universe so far, in 2025, it may look like that Agent Stone has received for about 14 minutes screen time, and General Robotnik has received 15 minutes of screen time, and meanwhile for Shadow the Hedgehog, in some cases the Ultimate Life Form, basically though he does manage to show up for about 17 minutes screen time. So, and meanwhile for Mendy, she did show up for about 27 minutes screen time. And meanwhile for Tails though, he did somehow receive 31 minutes screen time. And for Dr. Eggman, in some cases voiced by or played by Jim Curry, where basically though he's actually got 50 minutes of screen time. And Tom Wachowski does manage able to show up for about 52 minutes screen time. And Wade has been shown up for about 57 minutes runtime, or 57 minutes screen time, just because of Knuckles the series does count. And for Sonic the Hedgehog, he obviously got 97 minutes of screen time. And finally, the #1 position at the moment is Knuckles himself. That's just mainly because of the forms of the existence of Knuckles the series, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, I can totally see why about the fact that I somehow mentioned about that particular Knuckles the series does count. In terms of the forms of Sonic's Cinematic Universe, at least as far as I can definitely tell from the get-go. So, yeah, that's right something. So, anywho though, also another thing else is worth noting for actually, is about the fact that I did somehow manage able to discover about the fact that I also got myself the forms of the final 3DS game as well, like I stated earlier. And that game I did somehow picked up was Super Pokemon Rumble. Why? Because I would like to give that game a second chance. Because I was originally trying to able to go after, let's just say Pokemon Rumble World, but then I figure, well, I'm probably not gonna get it for multiple reasons. For one thing, it does have microtransactions for the free downloadable version, which I did used to have it, but then I thought, nah, I'm probably not gonna touch upon it, because obviously though it's nothing like not only the original Pokemon Rumble for the WiiWare, but as well as the forms of the 3DS game for the likes of Super Pokemon Rumble, or, for those of you who lived in North America, Pokemon Rumble Blast. So, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that it's a good thing I managed able to give the game a second chance now, especially concerning for the fact that I just felt incredibly, well, kind of thinking about it though, because obviously though, the 3DS games are basically done now for the likes of producing those particular stuff like this. Although, I was originally trying to able to get myself Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate, but I figure about the fact I've definitely heard some mixed feelings about the game, especially concerning for the fact that it does have some very mixed reviews of Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate, not only for the 3DS, but as well as the PlayStation Vita itself as well, and so much so for the fact that I just don't feel like trying to get that game, because I definitely heard some okay moments, but it's just about the fact that, well, I do believe that that game is incredibly boring. Like, it's nothing like the forms of how it does it for how awesome with the forms of Arkham Asylum, as well as the forms of Arkham City, because those two games in particular are pure masterpieces, along with the forms of Arkham Knight, what I've noticed, despite the fact that it does have some issues on the Switch version just because of graphical oddities and all that jazz. So, but I digress. Oh yeah, this challenge is a kind of a fun one, because basically though, we can able to actually do a combination of those different elemental shields with their different abilities. So, yeah, for instance though, there are a couple of times though about the fact you do need to able to like do a quick switching when it comes to like different shields equipped. Like for instance though, there are some flamethrowers and electricity has been shown, and basically though, it's about the fact that you have to quickly try to find the corresponding elemental shield, and then once you've done so, then you can able to progress onwards. So yeah, I actually do like this challenge, especially concerning for the fact that it does shows us some capabilities of how unique the elemental shields plays out to be, especially concerning for the fact that, well, I fully appreciate that the elemental shields does return since in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, although they obviously brought it back for the likes of Sonic Mania, which I honestly do fully appreciate about that stuff. So anyway, and it's also worth noting for this point too, speaking of which, in regards to the forms of rumors and leaks again, well, it seems to be popping up all over the place again. And some rumors out there keeps on saying about the fact that there could be a possibility that Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth are going to be planning for release for Nintendo Switch 2. Well, it's a bit difficult to judge of what's going on, just because, again, I don't trust rumors and leaks anymore, just because sometimes, though, they're getting way too out of hand, and so much so for the fact that no matter what, though, I just need to focus on not only recording sessions on not only with Sonic X Shadow Generations, but also meanwhile for Blaze the Cat, that she obviously still focuses on Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games for the DS version. So, and as far as I'm aware though, is about the fact that the views count for Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games is still going pretty well, at least on the DS version, while not even compared to the forms of how it does it on the Wii version of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Well, that's just mainly because I can definitely tell you for sure right from the start that because of the forms of nostalgia factor decides to kick things in, or decides able to come in. So anyway, so that pretty much does it for every single challenge act with Classic Sonic. Now let's go ahead and focus on the final 5 of those challenge acts with Modern Sonic. And here we go into another bit of a fun challenge, and that's what appears to be a Trick Master or Action Master, where basically though you have to learn certain Modern Sonic skills and able to actually overcome with those obstacles and stuff like that. And as you can tell, I somehow managed to put the background music as in Kingdom Valley from Sonic 06. Well, this is mainly because I really love the atmosphere with the actual different time of day for the likes of the planet Wisp, because it almost feels like a sunset vibes or something like that, or maybe some sort of like a misty vibes to it though, and as a result that's why I've always attempted able to stick on that particular music of Kingdom Valley, just to ensure for the fact that it just fits the actual ambience or anything else like that. So yeah, I do like this challenge, especially concerning for the fact that it does encourage you to do a lot of type platforming here and there. Well, as long as you do not activate the forms of drop dash to begin with, but again, no, that can easily get in my way sometimes. So And still, it's incredibly annoying about the fact that you can't disable it during the Forms of Divinity Challenge acts because it'll make things a lot more difficult. So, either way, regardless of such though, we did manage to achieve a nice little glorious S rank, so everything else checks out there. So, anyway, so we're now down to the final 4, as well as the final 4, rather, in terms of not only challenge acts, but as well as the forms of those musical notes we need to obtain as well. And suffice to say, though, is about the fact that, well, that's not to say that we are not exactly completely done in terms of musical notes collecting just yet, because there's going to be more to it than that at some point once we make our way to Shadow Generations at some point. So, but anyway, let's move on to the next challenge, where we have to catch a ride with these platforms here in order to be able to progress. So, yeah, kind of another fun challenge, even though despite the fact that my air boost does not seem able to come out of it too much. But apart from those aside things though, yeah, it's a nice little challenge, I guess. So, anyways though, because yeah, as far as I did somehow manage to say this ever since in yesterday, about the fact that it's very unbelievable that we're about to be getting Minions 3 for the sake of the Forms of 2026 this time, because that film was originally going to be able to be released in 2027 to go alongside with the exact same release year as in Sonic the Hedgehog 4 movie, but usually, relatively speaking, it was just about the fact that we're about to be getting a lot of those familiar movies all in a single year. Well, apart from the fact I'm really expecting about the fact that, well, usually for when it comes to the live-action Disney movies up to that point, obviously though we're about to be receiving the live-action remake of Moana in 2026 to match with the Forms of the 10th anniversary of the first release of Moana the original. So, but yeah, that's as far as I can try to think about in terms of discussing upon film releases and all that jazz. I mean, it is just pretty crazy to believe that, you know, it is very shocking. So, and unfortunately though, is about the fact that one of those programs in particular, or specifically the TV series for that matter, that one of those TV series is sadly going to be delisted at some point in the beginning of February, and that show in questioning was My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, which, oh boy, I wasn't expecting to see that coming. Especially, well, luckily though, there are a lot of YouTube channels out there in terms of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic now, especially concerning for the fact that it does manage to contain multiple compilations of certain videos like this, which I honestly do fully appreciate about that, especially despite the fact I still managed to get myself the DVD copies of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, because still, I really love that show so much still. Although it's kind of unfortunate about the fact that when it comes to Netflix users, obviously though that particular show is going to be erased from its existence. Although, it's well remembered, even to this day, especially unlike G5 to me though, just because I feel like G5 to me is pretty lackluster and as well as disappointment at the same time. Well, that's just mainly because of the lack of world building, and not to mention though, the cliffhanger happens in Make Your Mark, and that's a absolute pity on my part. And yeah, you probably get the idea what I'm talking about. So anyway, according to the forms of the article though, in terms of the forms of that particular thing I just somehow described earlier, Netflix is officially removing Friendship is Magic on the 1st of February. This is apparently happening worldwide, and not too surprising since a large chunk was already axed previously. So as a result though, it looks like we're about to be saying goodbye to Season 1 on Netflix, because that was the only season they somehow brought up onto Netflix. And what I found was a little bit odd too, is that on the UK TV guidelines or anything else like that, out of nowhere, we did technically somehow receive My Little Pony Friendship is Magic on a different channel, which appears to be Sky Showcase, and I was like, okay, that sounds kind of familiar. And what I found was very, very cool to me though, and awesome at the same time, that particular show is going to be on the exact same channel as in The Simpsons, and I was like, oh yes, that is really, really awesome in my opinion. Especially concerning for the fact that both of those shows in particular, including some of these Sonic cartoons, like Sonic X for instance, yes, I managed to give that show another chance, especially concerning after the film's that negative reception because of the forms of Chris Thorndike. But regardless of such though, it's about the fact I'm just very curious able to rewatch the familiar storytelling based off from Sonic Adventure as well as Sonic Adventure 2, with all that particular, you know, familiar story arcs with the forms of the similar premise. But either way though, yeah, because no matter what though, I'm just very surprised about the fact that the girls show was actually on the exact same channel as in The Simpsons with Sky Showcase, at least on the UK channels. So kind of cool to me though. Although what I found was a little bit fascinating to me though is that I believe the Sky Showcase channel is going to be receiving those episodes in a chronological order instead of the forms of, well, I do believe that Sonic or Piglet did tell me about this, that back in Journey Evolves in 2013, when Tiny Pop did somehow manage able to actually release the actual TV series of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, but for whatever reason, in Tiny Pop in general, just somehow releases the third season first, and then the second season and the first season in a very bizarre order, which I honestly have no words to describe it. But I do know for a fact that Journey Evolves have been in 2011 for some time in the UK version of Boomerang channel, that obviously though it does manage to contain the majority of the episodes, or should I say, all of the episodes from Season 1, but unfortunately though, no sign of Season 2 or 3 either. But that's just mainly because no matter what though, of the maybe licensing issues might have something to do with that. Well, hard for me to say, but either way. So, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that that good old G4 is about to get axed out of Netflix. Which, for me personally though, I don't normally use Netflix that much anymore, apart from checking out some couple of series I was really investing into, like Sonic Prime for instance, alongside with the forms of some Netflix exclusive films, like, I don't suppose if you noticed, but back in about a month ago, me and Blaze did manage able to check out this very unexpected Christmas movie, which appears to be That Christmas, and I thought to myself, I was able to check that film out, and for what I've seen it, it's actually pretty good. I mean, nothing perfect or anything, I mean, it is good for what it is, so, despite the fact that that particular film was only released on Netflix to begin with, so, but yeah, pretty worth knowing for. But anyway though, I suppose generally speaking though is about the fact that there's also another thing else that's worth noting for, and that's what appears to be for the fact that out of nowhere, that Minecraft has received new Sonic add-on DLC on Game Mode 1. And as a result though, because I'm almost assuming for the fact that the Sonic Minecraft DLC was already a thing back in 2021, but actually as it turns out they somehow brought it back again. And it's hard for me to explain just because I don't normally play Minecraft as much as the next guy, but I do know for certain for one thing is about the fact that obviously every nowadays Minecraft is now getting the forms of a lot of DLC skins, which I think is actually pretty cool to me though, especially they decided able to bring back the Sonic skin at long last, and as a result, what I've seen the gameplay footage of it so far, I believe you can only play as 5 different playable characters at the moment, which appears to be not only Sonic himself, but alongside with Tails, Knuckles, Shadow, and Amy, so, and still no luck of the forms of any other characters so far. I mean, mind you, it's only just the beginning, so I've no idea why I somehow managed to say things like that, but anyway, speaking of which though, it's about the fact that I also did somehow realize about the fact that, unfortunately though, one of those reviewers really despised Sonic 3, and I was like, are you kidding me? That particular user name was Matt Welsh, and he just somehow comments the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 as in Sonic 3 is horrible, and I was like, I got my face slapped so hard whenever I see that particular message pops up, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, generally speaking, it's about the fact that we still really enjoy Sonic the Hedgehog 3, despite I'm probably not going to get into further details of the film still, just because, obviously though, the film has been recently came out. Ever since, like, I can't believe about the fact it's almost been about a month ago since the actual film was first released on a big screen, or technically the silver screen, depending on your preference of what you could decide able to call it that. So, and I somehow unfortunately got killed by the forms of, well, unexpected hazards and stuff like that. But that's okay, because we got a checkpoint, so yeah, it's not the end of the world personally. I won't admit it though right away, whenever I got to this mission on the Switch version, it did took me about a couple of tries. Although, despite the fact that, as you can tell, I don't think it's possible we can able to achieve a glorious A rank, because obviously though it's about the fact that if you couldn't tell already for this mission right here, Charming Bee decides to help you out, and as a result though, if you do manage to able to create those tornadoes that Charming Bee can able to trigger, obviously though you can able to stand on the actual tornadoes as an actual platform. So yeah, kudos to that, and I was immediately so close to get myself my glorious S rank, because if I do die at one point, thanks to this unexpected rotating spike balls, I have to go all the way back to where the checkpoint I did somehow activated. So, yeah, it's definitely a little bit stingy to me though, but oh well, I suppose I'll come back for that on my spare own time. So anyway, now let's move on to the final challenge act in the whole entire game, and as a result, we have to utilize with the orange rocket wisp. So, either way, and the background music we did somehow choose this time, and that's what it appears to be I Am All of Me. Plus, it's mainly because, as far as I'm aware, I can't believe we're actually getting very close to the second half in terms of Sonic X Shadow Generations as the game itself, because, you know, I'm incredibly hyped to able to actually try out Shadow Generations at some point, so... But still, it can take a bit while though, especially... Are you kidding me? I go get... Okay, just need to focus, and just try not to get distracted at one point, but hopefully though... Okay, there we go, now we've passed that part, so... Yeah, basically though, we have to bust out these little stuff like this. That's all I can really say about this, basically. So, yeah, because no matter what though, there's also another thing else I would like to point out actually, that it may look like we're about to be receiving a special ball decorated with the forms of a doll logo, which that doll logo looks a bit familiar to you. Well, that's only for the sake of the forms of how the fact that that DLC was only for Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, and thankfully that DLC is for free, by the way, in case if you really want to download it so badly, because luckily though we still managed to get ourselves the final two DLC characters with the forms of Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, and those two are Hatsune Miku alongside with the forms of Godzilla. So but I do know for something for notice is about the fact that Hatsune Miku does manage to have several voice clips on Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, so that's something. So, anyways though, and I suppose that was technically the final thing I want to discuss upon before we hit on to the main boss in the modern era, and we somehow managed to able to receive an update in terms of the forms of the highest grossing films of 2024. And so much so far that we're about to be able to be seeing not only one but three films have been recently got updated in terms of the highest grossing films in 2024. Although number one is still obviously goes to Inside Out 2, and meanwhile for second place it still goes to Deadpool and Wolverine, and third place is at the moment is Despicable Me 4. And on fourth place, we're able to actually have Moana 2, because that film is now on 2, according to the film's that specific update for 10th of January. As a result, I believe that film is now on to $963 million for this box office. So, yeah, at least it's doing pretty well, despite there are some mixed receptions out there. And fifth place goes to Doom Part 2. And sixth place actually goes to Wicked, which as a result, I definitely heard about that film, but I've never actually seen it before. So, and seventh place still goes to Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, and eighth place still goes to Kung Fu Panda 4, and ninth place is Mufasa the Lion King, which is very unsurprising. Just I'm sure for the fact that because, well, obviously they want money, obviously, so got nothing else to add. And 10th place goes to Yolu. So, and I'm pretty sure that seems a bit possible that we might eventually try to see maybe Sonic the Hedgehog 3 will able to make its way onto the top 10 highest grossing films in 2024. Usually I'm more concerned about that film is going to be on 10th place, and I don't know about the films of 9th place or anything else like that, just because as far as I'm aware, that it's kind of unfortunate about the fact that the actual worldwide release somehow differs between both Sonic the Hedgehog 3 alongside with Mufasa the Lion King, which I don't know about you because I just don't want to talk about that film at this point. Although it has some interesting premise, but I just want to move on. So anyway, so now we've inserted 3 of these boss keys, which pretty much leads us to the main boss in Modern Era. And guess what this boss is from? Well, as you may have guessed, this is obviously based off from Sonic Unleashed, except this time we are no longer as a werehog transformation, and so much so, we are faced off against with the Egg Dragoon. So, yeah, because kind of think about it though, I'm pretty sure the environment does manage to take place is obviously Eggman Land, because as far as I'm aware, you can still see the actual lava core in the bottom of the actual specific scenery or something like that. So yeah, basically though, in order to deal with this boss fight right here is about the fact you need to keep on homing attack into its glass dome, either for the sake of the bones of the top of its head, or, if you really want to be more specific than that, you can also try to attack him right into its groin. Well, I'm not only why I say that, but that's just mainly because I keep on rewatching Sonic the Hedgehog 2 all over again, just before, you know, the DVD release of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is almost fastly approaching. So, either way though, chances are though, speaking of which though actually, it's about the fact that we've only got about, well, I'm pretty sure it's only in America at the moment, but I do know for certain for one thing that we've only got 1 week left until the digital HD download version of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie was expected to be releasing until next week. So, because, you know, after all, we're on the 14th of January, of course, so, and hopefully at some point until tomorrow, I might occasionally go back on playing Mario Kart Tour again, just because I do need to unlock the next playable character. That's what appears to be Astronaut Blue Toad. So just to ensure for the fact that I'm almost completely done unlocking every single characters of that particular mediocre game to me though, because I don't know about you, I haven't really touched upon Mario Kart Tour since then because, well, I just feel like I just basically about to be preparing for potentially speaking of a brand new Mario Kart game in the future. Well, we shall wait and see what happens. So, oh yeah, every once in a while though, this particular void decided able to show up, which means we now ended up in a skydiving segment, which kind of feels a bit similar to the ones in the original Sonic Unleashed boss fight. However, this time is about the fact you can now able to get a chance to able to attack Egg Dragoon. So, yeah, kind of a cool fight, despite the fact that it goes on for a little bit too long for my liking, and not to mention though, is about the fact that it does have this very repetitive line for Eggman himself, like, time for a change of pace. And as a result though, oh wow, I somehow beat him for about a quickest way imaginable. Okay, kudos to that. Oh well man, that scene looks very satisfying, but either way, and so much so, we are basically done Egg Dragoon, and not to mention though, we somehow done almost every single aspect in a modern era, so yeah, everything else checks out there.
Sonic!
I recalibrated everything! This was supposed to be my time!
Oh, please, keep dreaming, Egghead. I beat you every time. No, seriously, we beat him every time. Our scorecard's flawless.
Stopping Eggman is always good, but the root of the problem is that monster. Maybe we can call a truce and... Look, he got your Eggman too. Oh, this is getting serious.
I will say that line what modern Sonic did say makes absolutely no sense to me, especially concerning for the fact that unlike the original that he did say we beat this guy every time, it's like it's our job or something, is a better line than the forms of we beat this guy every time, our scorecard is flawless, because I believe the original line with the forms of this our job or something was actually a nice reference to Sonic Colors when Q-Bot says that to Eggman, or Orbot for that matter, which, as a result, Ian Flynn, you ruined everything, which, don't get me wrong, it is somewhat questionable when it comes to line changes as far as I'm concerned, But regardless of such though, it's about the fact I just don't have no idea why that line has been changed for the worst. So I guess with that being said, folks, is that we're getting things up here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic X Shadow Generations while we're still playing through Sonic Generations Remastered version. Is that we'll go back into the previous stages again, except this time we're trying to find the red star rings in addition to more chows. So I'll see you guys until tomorrow.